Hey there, everyone. Welcome to our Coffee People podcast recap show. Thank you for being here and being a supporter of our Coffee People platform. I'm your host, Ryan Woldt. You can follow or subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening, but you'll find all of our episodes, links, and bonus content on coffeepeoplepodcast.com. Please become a subscriber to help us tell the stories of Coffee People. That's coffeepeoplepodcast.com. This episode is presented by Roastar Coffee Packaging, as are all of our episodes, found online at roastar.com. If you head to roastar.com, you'll find examples of high-quality, affordable, customizable packaging that they offer for coffee, tea, snacks, and beyond. That's roastar.com. And coincidentally, or not so coincidentally, our recent podcast guest is Roastar's president, Will Reif. I'm here to recap that conversation in case you didn't have a chance to listen to the full pod, or you just want to reinforce a few important takeaways. For example, Roastar is a manufacturing company. It's also an e-commerce company. Those two operations don't always require the same strategy, which keeps Will's job interesting. Going back in time a little bit, right after college, Will wasn't quite sure what he was going to do. He went to Costa Rica to teach English. There, he visited a coffee farm. It was his first experience with how coffee impacted a community. And later, when he got into packaging, that first coffee experience inspired him to look back at coffee as a potential industry to enter. There was a time when he was still kind of wandering about looking for what his career was going to be. But through it all, his father and family had been role modeling entrepreneurship, and had been so since he was a young kid. Talk about the family business wasn't hidden, it was discussed, optimistically, over the dinner table. In the early 2010s, while working for his father's company, Wausau, he was exposed to a new digital printing technique. It's much more common now, but back then it was revolutionary, if not a bit controversial. That's how fast our tech has been progressing. Something that was revolutionary 10, 15 years ago is commonplace now. That new digital printing press back then just so happened to be the perfect size for a standard coffee gusset bag. Will saw an opportunity, and he started talking to coffee roasters to find out if there was an opportunity in the market. What he found was that the packaging pain points, speed, order quantity, customization, were the same ones the new digital printing technique could help alleviate. So Roastar actually made sense as an idea, and there appeared to be demand. But it wasn't until he booked a table at a coffee convention just to get the idea out to a bigger audience that he really knew this was going to work. They came away from that show with an award for Best New Product, and things have only grown from there. The small business with a handful of employees has grown into a company with marketing, sales, manufacturing, human resources, and so on. Will went from being the idea guy and innovator to having to be a leader and a boss. More on that in a moment. Will was effusive in his reflection on being in Wisconsin. The Midwest is a hub for manufacturing, an ideal place, really. But he was also honest about the challenging that faced the e-commerce side of the business and the need to create flexible opportunities in an effort to attract the best talent. The remote boom during COVID made it much easier to hire employees who may not be based nearby. It also made it easier for tech-forward employees to relocate to places that offered affordability in relation to coastal tech hubs, not to mention a swath of other appealing amenities. For Roastar, being Midwestern is one of their values. When I talk to their customers, one of the biggest points of feedback I hear is how when they need help with a packaging plan, a person answers the phone and walks them through the process. In our discussion of digital printing, Will was open that while it works for a lot of customers, it may not be for everyone. It offers certain values that are appealing to some, but may not always be as cheap. But that's what you get in exchange for the customization and the order quantities and the speed. Will's motivation as a boss has changed over the years. The first few were about growth, innovation, being nimble. But as the company has grown, he's learned how to run a business. His focus had to change for that team to succeed. In 2018, he adopted a new operation system called Traction, because he saw that some of the steps to operating a business, a new or small business, have already been done. Anyone can access paths that you can follow to create business stability and professionalism. Those types of structures can aid in keeping your focus where it needs to be. Big companies can afford to build their own structure. but it doesn't have to be an impediment to your company growth. Will used some of that time gained from the restructured business operations to spend time focusing on how to become the type of boss that could best lead a growing business, and also what learning style would work with his personality. Not everything is plug and play. I'll leave you with a quote that Will shared from the famous UCLA basketball coach John Wooden, who, and this is a bit of a paraphrase, said, "You haven't taught until they've learned." I want to express my thanks to Will for appearing on the podcast. In addition to uplifting our platform as our presenting sponsor, Roastar is also helping grow and educate the people of the coffee industry, both through the Coffee People podcast and directly with their customer-first efforts. I'd also say that I appreciated that when Roastar employee Nick Schmidt suggested Will Reif as a guest on the show, no one ever reached out to give me a directive on how to run the episode or what questions to ask. It wouldn't be entirely unreasonable to hear from a marketing partner. But one thing that Will has learned is that he trusts the people that come in under the Roastar banner to do what they do. The important links from this show, like the one to roastar.com, is in the episode's show notes, and of course on our Coffee People podcast newsletter, which you can subscribe to, and I hope that you do, at coffeepeoplepodcast.com. You can also find our show on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Thank you for giving it a listen, for hitting the follow buttons, and ideally giving us those 5 shiny stars that we're all striving to get. Thanks again to our friends and partners, including, obviously, Roastar Coffee Packaging, Sivetz Roasting Machines, spelled Sivetz, Hacea Coffee Source, Relative Coffee Company, and, of course, all of you. To everyone out there, thank you for listening. Please tip your baristas, and, of course, drink good coffee. Cheers, everyone.